Would you join me in prayer? O God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Our passage today is one of the parables of Jesus. Parables are the most common way that Jesus would teach, and parables, they're these kind of metaphorical stories that are intended to make a point. But they always make their point indirectly. They make their point indirectly. That is, the meaning they're trying to get across is different from the plain meaning of the story itself. That makes a parable sort of like a puzzle box, something that has something precious inside. If you could just figure out how to get it open, that's how we explain parables in our Sunday school anyway, is that they're like boxes to try to open. Parables don't always open in the same way either. Some parables will open when I realize that I am not identifying with the character that I am supposed to by the end. I might imagine, for example, myself as the woman who is sweeping every inch of her house, looking for something precious that was lost, looking for some badly needed money. And then, click, the parable opens when I realize that I am the lost coin, and that God is the one who will stop at nothing to find me. Sometimes a parable opens when I change who I am, like that. This parable is different, though. It doesn't open that way. It's a parable about faith. It's a parable about having faith in the realm of God. I can't get it to open for me by changing around who's who, because I don't want to be anyone in this parable. The parable, it seems like a warning, like a terrible and dire warning about what is to come if the listeners don't get things right. It starts off with a king inviting people in a certain city to come to his son's wedding banquet. Okay, so far so good, but the people that the king invites, they sort of just inexplicably blow it off. And what's more, some of them decide to just attack the people who are bringing the wedding invitation and kill them. That's not great. But the king then brings it up to another level and burns the entire city down. And the parable isn't over yet. It's like halfway done. The king, having burned the city down, has a problem. Who is going to come to his son's wedding? So the king goes and grabs people who are just out minding their own business, living daily life, making them come to the wedding. Out buying fish for the day? Nope, you are coming to a wedding, and considering this RSVP, in considering your reply, please remember what occurred to those who did not RSVP yes. So, these random people, they all wind up going to the wedding. But in one final twist, the king singles out one poor soul and says, hey, how come you're dressed so badly? This is a wedding. You should be dressed appropriately. But in this person's defense, they had no idea that they were supposed to be going to a wedding. The parable is about faith in the realm of God, and it seems like some kind of warning. Some kind of warning about what is to transpire if I don't have faith the right way. I can't get it to open up by changing around who's who, whose shoes I'm supposed to be wearing. I can't make that work because it all goes so horribly wrong for everyone. The king, he behaves as an impetuous tyrant, turning readily to violence. The people who are originally supposed to go to the wedding, they seem like ingrates who turn cruel for no reason. I don't want to be them. The people who are the backup invitees, they are held to totally unreasonable standards. And let's not forget about the son whose wedding this is. This wedding stinks. The city has been burned to the ground, so the venue is shot. The guest list, a shambles. The people who are there, they're terrified because they have just watched a guest get thrown into the outer darkness for not wearing wedding clothes, which, again, they hadn't known they were going to a wedding in the first place. This parable just won't open up for me by changing around who's who, because it all goes so horribly wrong for absolutely everyone. It's a parable about faith, about having faith in the realm of God. But those other guests, the backup ones, I mean, the ones who didn't get thrown into the outer darkness, I do wonder about them. I understand why the person who got thrown into the outer darkness was not wearing wedding clothes. I understand that. My question is, why were all of the rest of these people wearing wedding clothes? Why did they all have wedding clothes? They can't be out doing their fish shopping that way, can they? Walking around in wedding clothes all day, or maybe they're just carrying around tuxedos and ball gowns in case a wedding breaks out. Who are these people who are dressed appropriately for a wedding they had known nothing about? And that is the click of the puzzle box for me. The parable has to be read inside out. It has to be flipped inside out to see what is happening, to see what you're supposed to look at. It has to be flipped inside out. It's a parable about faith, about having faith in the realm of God. It has to be read inside out. The parable seems like a warning. Seems like a warning about something that's going to happen in the future. It has to be turned inside out to show that the seams of the future are always sewn with the threads of the past. It seems like a warning about this city that is going to be burned. It's just talking about Jerusalem. And this wasn't a prediction of something bad that was going to happen. By the time that the Gospel of Matthew was written, by the time that this passage was ever first read aloud, the city of Jerusalem had been burned down. The people were trying to understand what it meant. It had been burned down, past tense, by Rome, by an impetuous tyrant readily turning to violence. This parable, it looks on the face of it like a warning about what might happen in the future, but when you turn it inside out, you can see that the future is always sewn with the threads of the past. The city had been burned. And the people were trying to understand the world they lived in because it had changed. This parable is about honestly understanding, honestly reckoning with the pain that the people were living through. It's inside out. This parable is about faith in the realm of God. Read inside out, we can see that faith in the realm of God, it requires an acknowledgement of the pain of the world. Not seeking to avoid it or understand it or pretend it's not there, but to understand it. This brings us to the person who didn't bring wedding garments, who was not prepared for a celebration he had no idea was coming. The parable has to be turned inside out to see all of the other people who came to the wedding who did have wedding garments, even though they had no idea the wedding was coming. Those people, that is faith in the realm of God. Faith in the realm of God is finding a way to live in times of great pain and uncertainty, holding on to hope even when there is no earthly reason, even when there is no reason to predict that those hopes will come to pass, holding on to hope, working to be prepared for things to go better than anyone would predict. That's why it is called faith and not forecasting. Faith in the realm of God, it is a way of living in the world, a way of living and walking through the world that understands the reality of the world, sees it, reckons with it fully, and of being prepared for things to go vastly, wondrously better than there is any reason to believe would occur. Faith in the realm of God is like a person who is always prepared to go vastly, wondrously better than they have any reason to believe would occur. The world we live in. The world, oh friends, the world. There is more than enough evidence to freeze the heart of anyone who is seeking to analyze their way toward hope. Faith in the realm of God. It's like being out at CVS buying paper towels when someone comes bursting in the door saying, "You have to come, the most wonderful thing has happened." People are dancing in the streets and then saying, "Well, good thing I always carry my emergency tuxedo. I'm going to lend a certain je ne sais quoi to these proceedings. Faith in the realm of God, it is renewing your passport so that you will be all set to be there for the signing of Israeli-Palestinian peace accords. No problems getting on the plane. Faith in the realm of God is getting scuba certified in order to be able to dive down over a fully rejuvenated Great Barrier Reef. Faith in the realm of God is starting a family, or quitting that job, or leaving that jerk who says you'll never do any better. It's coming out to that one last family member. Faith in the realm of God, it's like a wedding cake, beautifully decorated in a glass-fronted box labeled in case of emergency, break glass. Faith in the realm of God, it's like being in a certain city, out buying fish, when a messenger from the king comes and says, you are coming to the wedding feast, and of saying, I have just the thing.